here we go. So the other major kind of expendable mold casting is investment casting or lost wax or lost styrofoam casting. And so what happens in this is that you start out by making a wax version of whatever you want to make. And so sometimes those will be cast, they cast wax into a little mold. Sometimes, like on a sculpture, it's something that somebody has created and you can carve the wax, or there are other ways to get to the wax version, but anyway. You take those little wax parts and you attach them to a sprue that is also made of wax, and you add runners in there. And when you do this, this is called a tree when you put this all together. So this is all wax material. You take it and you dunk it in a ceramic slurry, and then you shower it with ceramic parts, and you do this back and forth a whole bunch of times. And then you hang it upside down and heat it. This both cures the ceramic and also melts all the wax out of the inside. And then afterwards, you take it while it's still hot, you pour the molten metal into it, and then it will create the parts. And at the end, you put it on a machine that shakes it really hard, and that will crack all of the plaster off the outside. So this is a lot like sand casting. It has the ability to do very high temperature materials, maybe not quite as high as you can do with sand casting, but almost. It gives a smoother surface on the materials. You can get a better surface finish. Though last year we got a worse surface finish with this, but our investment casting is a little shoddy. But anyway, some of the same things sort of apply. We need to have vents. We need a way for the air to get out of this when you pour the material in. So you can see that there are two little attachments to each one of the parts. What happens is the metal flows straight to the bottom of this, the sprue first, and then it will start to fill up from the bottom and flow into each of these sides and push the air out and up the top as the material comes down. So this is really good. It's better for smaller-ish parts. So even when you see a giant bronze sculpture, they were made by this process, but they are made in panels that are sort of this big typically, and then welded together. Some of them might be done in one pour, like the ballerina that's down on the big tin rock by the Taylor Dock area. That was probably done in a single pour. I don't know for sure, but it certainly could have been. And then the bigger parts like that are usually hollow on the inside. They're a bit of a lie, but that's okay. So this is a really cool method and a really good way to make things. It takes more processing than the sand casting to get that smoother surface finish, but this does allow you to get a better finish on the part right off. That is not advancing in the right place, but now it will. Yeah, we're going to skip that. No need to do that. So this is ceramic casting, and I think that this is Miss Captain Obvious from the SME videos.
Investment casting is a precision process using primarily ceramic shell molds. Investment casting is also known as the lost wax process, because wax, a principal pattern material, is consumed during the mold-making process. Consumable plastic patterns are also used. Investment casting patterns are made by injection molding. These patterns are assembled onto a wax post connected to a pouring cup. This pattern assembly, called a tree, usually incorporates complex runner systems to assist metal flow in the investment casting process. The shell mold is produced by dipping the pattern assembly several times in slurry and allowing it to dry between dips. The first slurry mixture consists of fine particles for smoothness. Subsequent dips are mixed with coarse particles to quickly build up thickness and provide strength. The wax is removed from the mold by melt-out in a furnace or autoclave. Then the mold is fired to remove moisture, cure the ceramic, and to preheat it for pouring. Both ferrous and non-ferrous metals can be investment cast. Once the metal has solidified, the mold is broken and the casting removed. The main advantage of investment casting is the complexity of shapes that can be cast to close tolerances, thin walls, and smooth finishes. Most investment cast parts weigh less than 4.5 kilograms. However, parts weighing over 100 kilograms are also made.
Captain Obvious kills me. We won't watch a lot of Captain Obvious videos, but he's so funny. Like, the difference between hot and cold risers is, as the name implies, the temperature of the riser.
You do a pretty good impression.
Thanks. That was 45 seconds of my life that I cannot come back. All right. How would you decide whether to use sand casting or lost wax casting? Yep.
Desired surface finish and size of the part being made.
Okay, size of the part, desired surface finish. Yeah.
Complexity?
Complexity, which is better for complexity?
Lost wax.
It's interesting, it sort of depends. And the reason that it sort of depends is because it's based on the pattern that you can build. So if you can make a really good complex wax pattern, then you can make a really good complex part with lost wax. But sometimes it's easier to make the pattern in the sand configuration. It's not always a one-to-one correlation. Yeah, curious. Any other thoughts? Yeah.
Volume.
The volume.
A tree of those little parts.
Yeah, so you're making a bunch of those at the same time. You can also do sand casting where you do a bunch of parts around, but you can't go out of plane. So this is the big difference, is that these were all stacked vertically. In a sand casting mold, you can spread parts across the surface of the parting line between the cope and the drag, but you can't stack them vertically because there's no way to get the pattern out if you stack them vertically. So that's a big difference. Yes?
Is it true that lost wax casting has more flexibility in volume? You know, you can make a one of one, or you can make a huge tree, where sand casting you have to have something to mold against, and so there's more investment for a single mold in that way?
I don't know if it's quite that simple. Yeah. They each have their advantages for one or a lot. Yeah.
Is it true that you're like going through more steps with the wax?
There are a lot more steps with
It
the
takes
wax.
more time.
And so you have to have good transfer of the shape at every step of the wax process.
Is sand casting cheaper?
It is cheaper because you get to reuse the sand, and it's just sand. And so there is some savings that way. The ceramic is all done at the end. You throw it away, and it makes a giant mess. Giant mess. When you see a sculpture that, you know, like the ballerina down there or any of the bronzes that are on campus, those were made many, many times. So the sculptor has to be involved at every step of the process. In general, the way that those are made is that they are first sculpted out of clay or wood for the original shape. And then they will take plaster and they will completely coat that shape in plaster and allow it to dry, and then they cut around the line and they split it apart. And then they will go in and they will touch up the details in that plaster to, if any place that it didn't transfer the details well. And then they will take that and they will fill it with wax to get a wax positive. So we have a ceramic negative, then we make a wax positive, And then they will pull the ceramic off the outside, and they will go in and they will completely redo the sculpture again for all of the artistic touches on the wax. And then after that, they will coat it in the plaster that is going to become the mold, and they will melt it out, pour it, and then you get the bronze part. And if it has to be put together, then they have to take those sections and they have to assemble them, or even if it isn't, they have to cut off all the sprues and all the things that were holding cores in place. And then they will go through and they will redo all of the details on it that didn't transfer and smooth it out, and then put the patina on to make it so it's sort of the classic bronze sculpture color. And so to make one, they have done that sculpture about 4 times just to make one, and they do it when they want to make 4 or 5 or 10 of the same sculpture, or maybe more. And if you want to make more, then you send it to a different country to do it. Anyway, surprising. Another way to do this for fairly complex parts is if you have the facilities and you're making enough, you can make a mold and you can inject polystyrene into the mold and make a core or a positive out of polystyrene. Then you take this polystyrene, you coat it with the ceramic and go through the process again. And then when you do this, you don't melt the material out of the inside. Just when you pour in the hot metal, it will burn the polystyrene out. And because it's foamed, it's mostly air anyway. There's a very small amount of polystyrene remaining, and so it will burn all of that out of its way. And this allows you to make fairly complex parts, so long as you can figure out how to make the polystyrene version of it well. And like I showed the other day, it's pretty cool because on this part that was made by that process, I can pass this around, but you can see all of the little marks from the little polystyrene deals. I don't know what those are. What are they called? They
Bubbles?
are
Nodules?
could be nodules. I don't know.
You like bubbles?
Could be.
Grains? The grains?
We're not going to do that. All right. So. Nope, we're not going to do that now. So we will talk on Tuesday about how do you know if it's cast, or how do you, and we'll work on that then. So I guess we're finished for the day, so you can go do your stretches to get ready for sweet pizza.
Gotta make some room.
Yeah, right.
What?
Gotta make some room for sweet pizza.
All right.
Pizza? Is that what you just said? That was genius. How did you come up with that?